28.
Lovely, welcome. The word is coming in.
It's streaming live on YouTube. Wow.
Yes, I'm seeing that as well. So that really is the magic wizardry of guide training, all the additional things we can do with a professional host.
So we have a private link on YouTube. So if somebody has problems connecting to Zoom, I send the private link to the chat.
That's excellent. Yeah. Oh, attendees. Ah, yeah, now I can see our attendees as well. 31 have entered so far. Or is it? Yeah. Lovely.
So, okay.
Okay. Everybody's with us?
So 33 participants, perhaps the others come later, or
I see. So the doors remain open for anyone who arrives late or anyone who has to leave and returns. Is that possible as well, Sebastian? If anyone's internet connection breaks down, they may re-enter.
yes, they can always enter until the end of the webinar. Or if they say Zoom connection is not the best in some countries in the world, we have this private YouTube link. You then can't chat directly with us, but you can follow the webinar.
Excellent. So as I say, belt and braces, two options. In case option A doesn't work, we also have option B. Do participants know how to access the private YouTube channel?
They got the link in the chat. So for everybody, we use a webinar function of Zoom. That means the participants are not with video and audio here, only the speakers, but you can chat with us in the chat. We will watch the chat a little bit, but the most important thing later is the Q&A section where you can ask questions. And please always start asking the question with @ and the name of the speaker, so that they answer your question directly there, or we will answer the question live in the webinar. Then we mark that in the Q&A section that the question will be answered live. Yeah, that's how the webinar function of Zoom works. I'm here a little bit to...
Thank you very much, Sebastian. And in case we have got new participants, so Sebastian is the manager, owner of Guide Training, and he is kindly hosting many webinars for WFDJ. So again, thank you for hosting this one, our webinar for today, which is entitled Guiding in Times of a Pandemic. It's really about guiding. And Alushka will be back for our next really large series of webinars that will be at the end of the month, from the 28th to the 29th of September, and it's our association's journey. Because really, as you know what WFDJ is, we are the global forum for professional tourist guides, and we are facilitating the exchange of experiences between our colleagues around the world. We don't pretend to be medical experts or to have degrees in pharmacy or medical issues. We are tourist guides. And therefore, what we do, we enable tourist guides to speak to each other, to listen to each other, as we're doing today, and also to learn from each other. And that's really the aim of today. What we have done is we have brought together case studies. They're not solutions, they are case studies for inspiration of how our colleagues around the world have really risen to the challenge of the pandemic and have used the skills tourist guides have, opportunities tourist guides have to make a living, to create an income opportunity, but also to kickstart tourism again. So there will be 3 case studies from around the world. and then also some thinking of WFDJ. A little bit of housekeeping. So our webinar will take 1.5 hours. Sebastian has already kindly said we will be using the Q&A, the question and answer session, which I have at the bottom of my screen. So whilst our presenters are giving their case studies, and whilst our moderator, whom I'm going to hand over soon, is really looking after our speakers, I will be looking at the Q&A session and also try to answer some of the questions during the presentations. Then there will be a Q&A session at the end after our 4 presentations have been run, where we can again exchange our experiences as well, or really ask any relevant questions to the speakers. And the chat is really for general engagement as you would like, but we are really monitoring the Q&A. And again, a reminder, as Sebastian said, so if there's a particular question to one of the particular speakers, I hope you will see the names of the speakers at the bottom of the screen, and my colleague will also introduce them shortly, and say @speaker's name, and we know exactly where the question is directed to. So really welcome, and without further much ado, I now would like to introduce you to the moderator of our session. And the moderator is my dear colleague, Romano del Rosario, Manu as we call him. And Manu has got many talents. Manu is also an elected member of the executive board of WFDJ. There he looks after the Kulturcard program, for instance. He's also doing a lot of work in helping with our now 2022 convention in Serbia, Novi Sad. And Manu is also a member of the training committee. He's a practicing tourist guide, like all of us, and a trainer in his own country in the Philippines. And on top of that, if that isn't enough, Manu is also a registered nurse, a qualified nurse in his country. And that's why he was a member of the working group, WFDJ's working group for the health protocols. And he's really very much more capable than I am to moderate the session, to introduce our speakers, and also kind of guide us through the case studies that will follow. So here, it's an honor for me to hand over to Manu. You're still muted, Manu.
Yeah, Viola, thank you very much. Those humbling words made me so, proud of who we are as tourist guides who would want to pursue for growth, both professionally and personally. And we welcome everyone. And we thank, of course, through the leadership of our president, the WFDJ president, Alushka Ricci, and the rest of the executive board, through the training committee, with this another online learning session entitled Guiding and Training in Times of Pandemic. So I welcome everyone all over the world, our dear participants, our dear resource persons, our facilitators also on our meeting link. Thank you all, and we are grateful that though we have different time zones, wherever in the world, there was a chance for us to meet virtually and to be as one. So my name is Manu, and I will be your moderator for the rest of, for today's learning session. And of course, it is my honor to moderate this learning session because I would be sharing also a little of the updates later on about the health and protocol guidelines that the WFGGA is doing. So just for the idea of everyone, so after I introduce myself and do a little of introduction, I will be letting you know who are our resource persons or speakers for today. Our esteemed speakers for today came from the different parts of the world, and we invited 3 experts, part of our training division, lead international trainer and international trainer, to present their case studies about the best practices, and as well as yours that will serve as an inspiration for you to pivot and to also think of what's creative possible solution may it be applicable to your respective respective countries. And after the three presenters, I will be, of course, in honor to represent or to present to you updates on how the WFTGA is crafting its health and safety protocols that will be available soon. And after that, after the three speakers and plus me, so a total of four speakers, then we are all inviting most of you, if not all, to interact, be participative, and of course, ask questions in terms of if you wanted to clarify things out, if you wanted to also share your journey a little bit. And of course, the chat box is always there for us to monitor your queries, your questions, and clarifications. And if you will be allowing us after all of the question and answer portions are answered, we are also getting your consent regarding the photo session. So we will be requesting everyone to turn on your camera, your video, so that we can see your beautiful faces all around the world and we can have it taken as a photo. So that's basically how we will be running the session for today. And yes, again, it is very grateful for me to introduce to you our presenters. And as I have heard, as I have been inspired from these people for the past learning sessions that I joined with them, I am again excited on how will they be presenting their journeys, their best practices, case studies in their respective countries. And of course, it is my pleasure to introduce to you our renowned lead international trainer from Singapore who will be presenting her case study, none other than a dear friend here in the Southeast Asia, Miss Jean Wang.
Good afternoon, everyone, and thank you, Manu, for the introduction. I'm very happy to be here with other guides around the world. And of course, you know that just like many other countries, we are still facing the pandemic, and we are all very hopeful that the borders will open and visitors will start coming in. But in the meantime, in Singapore, we've had some different situations. In January, we received news that the COVID-19 was in Singapore, and for a while, we still had people coming from overseas. We had cruise ship passengers, but then suddenly, because of what happened overseas as well, the borders were closed, and the government had to think of whether they're going to lock down the entire city of Singapore, which is the entire country, or we decided to do something else, which we call the circuit breaker. So for the circuit breaker, it meant that all of us who could work from home, we had to work from home. In fact, we wasn't allowed to go to the offices. And then many of the restaurants were closed, but the shopping malls, some of them were also closed, but bit by bit we have opened up. And that was an opportunity that was given to the tourist guides. So all over Singapore, we actually deploy safe distancing ambassadors to take temperature, to tell people to put on the mask. But for the tourist guides, it was very special because we were selected to go to shopping precincts, tourist areas. So some areas where tourist guides are very familiar with. And in this picture, you can see that I'm not sure whether Viola, can you make it into the presenter mode so that the slide is bigger? Yeah.
You have to do the presenter mode.
Because it's not on my screen. Yeah, let's see.
The presentation, I'm sharing the presentation at the moment. It's on the opening slide. So I hope everybody can see it.
No, you have to put enable editing and then go to whether you can do the presenter mode. So that's a full screen for the slide.
Yeah. Or you share the wrong screen.
Yeah.
I've shared the wrong screen.
Wait.
If you do the presentation, you have two options, the moderator view or the presentation view, or just share the normal desktop screen.
Yeah.
Okay, so I stopped sharing. If you could guide me through what you want me to do. I mean, this is how I did it last time, and it seems to be working.
It's okay. Do the same. Do once again the same, but just.
Okay. So I go into share screen and I click on the moderator on the PowerPoint.
Yes.
Okay. And then share. Yes, I'm now
okay,
in.
And then you have to click on
enable edit.
In the PowerPoint on slideshow.
Yeah, so first enable edit. Hang on. Okay, sorry. And then it is.
So one of the things that, one of the things that we did when we had circuit breaker was that I stayed at home and learned how to use Zoom. So here I am with all of you, and it's a learning journey for all of us because we had to do training on Zoom. Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's okay.
My problem is that I can't get to enable.
Never mind, we just continue.
I put the stop share on top of that. Hang on, let me try.
Okay.
Oh yeah, I've clicked it now. So I've done, and then slideshow.
Start from beginning.
Yeah, that's what I did. Here we are. Is it okay now?
Okay.
Now
yeah,
it's
great,
working.
Great, fantastic, fantastic. Yeah, great.
That's what I did.
Right.
Okay,
so
I
just wanted, I just wanted you to see this picture because this is one of our tourist sites. It's of course Little India. It's where the local people is. And here you can see 5 of our guides wearing their ambassador tag. And so they have to put on the uniform when they're on duty. So from far away, everybody can see that they're coming. Okay, so can I have the next slide, please? Thank you. Okay, so the Singapore is all of government effort in Singapore. We have the Ministry of Health, which tell us about the health advisories. And then we put up the posters online in newspapers and put them everywhere for different things. And here I'm just showing you 2 posters. One is about safe distancing at events and public spaces. So everybody knows, you just look at the poster, you're reminded about the safe distancing. In Singapore, the safe distancing is 1 meter apart, 1 meter apart. And in terms of crowded spaces, everyone is supposed to stay 1 meter apart. And if we are with our family members, no more than 5 in one cluster. Okay, so that's what we have right now. And then on the second slide, you can see it's a safe Singapore. We have different scenarios about different places, reminding us that we may not have mahjong party unless we all know each other in the same family. Okay, so these are all reminders everywhere. Then the next slide, please, Viola. Yeah. So we mean business in Singapore. We have so many cases where people had their private barbecue parties and home parties, and they were somebody complained because they made too much noise and they're worried about the infection. So people have been fined and put to jail. And the main thing that we remember is for the general public, if we do not follow the penalties for safe distancing or social distancing, we have to pay a fine, $300 right away, even if it's the first time. There's no excuse. So the first time is $300 and the second time could be worse and up to $10,000 or even imprisonment. So this is the penalty that people will face if they forget to wear a mask when they're outside or some other protocol that they break. So the next slide, please. So why do we need the Safe Distancing Ambassador, or we like our acronym, so SDA? So the SDAs, we are not there as tourist guides. We are given the job as tourist guides because we think tourist guides have customer service, already trained in customer service. We know how to inform the public about the government measures in a gentle way. So that's why our role is ambassadors, and we are not enforcement officers. But having said that, when we deliver the message, we have to be serious, because if whoever it is, the customer or the shopkeeper or the restaurant owner, if they do not observe the measures, then the next step will be the enforcement officer stepping in. Even if we don't report, if there is they find somebody with infection, we are able to trace. They are able to trace with contact tracing, and we have different apps, then they will still be able to find out the restaurant. So it's quite serious. So our job is very, very serious. And mostly our guides are trying to tell the public, hey, I'm your friend. You know, if you break the rule, there's a $300 fine. So please comply. If you comply right away, we will, that nothing will happen to you. Nothing bad will happen to you. Although the ambassadors will need to report for the record's sake. The next slide, please. Yes, here you can see that the guides on duty, it's not comfortable. You can imagine if you've been wearing masks, it's not comfortable, and it's outdoor environment, and quite often it rains all the time. So you have, so in the words of the guide, they say we have to put on our mask, we have to use our hand sanitizer, and we have to make sure we take temperature. Somebody asks, why do we have to take our temperature? I say, yeah, if you have a high temperature, you cannot go to work because you're not well. Okay, so even as ambassadors, they cannot walk too close to each other, and they have to clean up before they go home. Okay, so more than just staying the model sort of the person with who can avoid all this infection. Howard on the left-hand side, he said that he's learned to exercise patience and care beyond just holding the rules, because every day they see business owners, if they are caught with breaking many rules, they have to shut the business. And right now, the bars and restaurant owners, they have to close. You know, they have to, maybe they close for a few weeks. So it's costing them a lot of money even to open up. And with this enforcement officer stepping in, it means even more serious trouble for them. Okay, so the guides have to be diplomatic, and there's only one girl here. She's Cindy, and she says that she's learned how to make friends, and she has learned where the best restaurants are, where the best spots are for guiding, and she's in Chinatown. So she's enjoying her work. She's been doing this since March. So the next, yeah. So the who do we select as safe distancing ambassadors? Okay, first of all, our guides are engaged because we have good relations with the local Singapore Tourism Board. And the Singapore Tourism Board has observed us on many occasions that we have good teamwork. I think that was the main thing, you know, that we were given an opportunity. For our role is just tourist guides. We are not sent to hawker center and mix with the other members of the other groups of people, like the airline people who lost their jobs. So we are just tourist guides. And so for tourist guides, first requisite, they have to be tourist guides. They are members of our society. And of course, they must make sure that they have no health issues, because we know the risk for people with high blood pressure or whatever. And we don't have a medical check for that, but it's the onus is on the guide that they have to declare that they have no health issue. And very importantly, they must be able to walk 20,000 steps a day, literally, because the first shift that they do, it's 4 hours straight before they go for a meal break. And then some of them have to do another 3 hours continuously. And sometimes they even have to stay at night for another 3 hours. So really a lot of stamina is needed. And it could be something repetitive. They go to the same street, go to the same shops and restaurants, and have people who glare at them because they're coming. So they really have to have a good attitude themselves. And of course, as far as they need to do reporting as part of their job, they need to learn how to use their smartphone well. Smartphone for reporting, smartphone for taking pictures or sending messages. So these are the prerequisites before we take them on for the job. Next slide, please. So in terms of training, because they come as tourist guides, so the training is quite simple in the sense that our officers who are in charge of this project from the government, they will do an online briefing. So that's why the first skill the guide needs to do is know how to go on Zoom and to receive the training online. Then after they have they maybe receive like 30-40 pages of notes. They have to study them. Plus they have to keep up to date with whatever is going on in the media and the newspapers when new rules come up, or new situations arise. So the guides have to keep on their toes, and then the training will be on the job. So the first day, there will be the officers will take them around and will tell them again. I think most importantly is to tell them the role that of being ambassadors and not to be to think that they are like the police and very, very clear. So the job training is to tell them how thorough they need to be so that we keep everybody safe, right? So having done this on the job training with the government officers, then the guides are paired, so they have a buddy system, so that you know, it's safety in numbers as well, because some situations are quite sensitive. But on the other hand, the buddy system, the strong will help the weaker, the one who's not so good with the phone will help somebody who's better with the phone, and then they learn from each other how to speak better with and convey the message to the shopkeepers, right? And then self-help. So we ourselves as SDA, if we are seen bunching together and you know, and was, I mean, that the initially was quite stressful because we had nowhere to eat, and we really, the guides really had to hide somewhere to eat. But now that the rules are relaxed, at least we have somewhere to eat. So that's less stressful. And the guides are saying that they try to meet each other at meal time so that they can exchange information, and also because they have this good camaraderie with each other, many of them have stayed on the job since March. You can imagine it's tough, but they have stayed, and they're, if as long as no tourists come back, they don't mind continuing. But they only work like 3 days a week, so they do have time for personal development, for causes, as well as their family time. So it's not the ideal job. It's not compared to guiding, it's not the same, but nevertheless, it's a lifeline that the government has shown to our tourist guides. The last slide. So wear your mask. Today I'm calling from home, so I don't have to wear my mask. But we understand now, originally when we started in January and February, we were telling everybody in Singapore, it's very clean, you don't have to wear the mask, but things change. And so now we are resigned to wearing our mask, and now we're very, very colorful with the mask. So that's all for my presentation. And if you have any questions, we can speak later. Thank you, Viola. Yeah.
Thank you very much, Jean. A wonderful presentation again. And I hope that our attendees, our dear attendees, have somehow been inspired of how Singapore has moved to from becoming a tourist guide to becoming a safe distancing ambassador, and how every word was discussed. Safe, ambassador, and even the distance itself was really very clear. And it's I mean, what struck me most was actually the compliance of how much the fine is, and how the tourist guide will build patience really to explain to people that they need to follow what the law is all about. So more to that, Jean, thank you very much for the wonderful presentation, and we're looking forward for our dear attendees for them to participate after that. I mean, during the Q&A, we hope that you can throw in questions to our dear panelists and speakers. So thank you again, and from then on, we're moving to the country Azerbaijan, and this Azerbaijan is also another very exciting case study, because as I have heard this and learned from this and got inspired from this during our last session, I am very excited for our presenter for today, Ms. Sakina Asgarova, one of the international trainer of the WFTGA.
Thank you, dear Manu. Dear ladies and gentlemen, I'm greeting you from sunny capital of Azerbaijan, Baku. And today, let me introduce myself, Asgarova Sakina. I am the co-founder of Azerbaijan Tourist Guides Association, and with great honor, I'm international trainer of World Federation of Tourist Guide Association. And today we are going to speak about the adaptation of ATGA activities into Sahman concept, and later we'll know what Sahman means. I hope that you see my shared screen and the technically everything is okay, my voice, my image, and we can go on. Thank you very much again. And to our next slide. sorry. Yes, as it happened to all the planet and the same with my country, Azerbaijan, the tourism people, the tourism expert didn't lose their hope. And we started to work with Azerbaijan Tourism Board and State Tourism Agency, Sahman.az. It's sanitation and hygiene methods and norms of Azerbaijan. And you can see that we have an official site, Sahman.az. If you want, you can get in and check it. And the only thing that you cannot find in English, it's the training programs, because our target is Azerbaijan speaking people. But the information, the structure, how it works, you can find detailed information on this site for more further details. And
Sakina,
I'm gonna, yes.
Sakina, can I interrupt you? Can you make the screen big? Can you click on slideshow and start?
Okay, now, moment.
Because we see the full screen at the moment.
Okay. So what about this? It works?
Yeah, that is better.
Thank you. And I want to continue that how you go as a guide. If you are an active guide in Azerbaijan, you just go to the site, the official site, and you get there is a place for the tourist guides, and you just participate at training. And then it's for free. You enroll for free to these trainings, and you go directly to the page only in Azerbaijani, as I said, and only dedicated to guides, because Sahman program covers not only guides, it covers hotels and the transfer agencies, transfer companies as well. But today we're speaking about only guides part. And then you should create your personal profile page with the all details, surname, email address, name of company if you have, and then you sign up to the program. After signing up, you need to give more information about yourself. It's about your tours, and then you send all this information to the administrator. And after that, you get acquainted with Sahman program and complete, then to go to the video format explanation of Sahman rules. It's just 3-minute video that it consists of the images and graphics, which is giving short explanation that what a guide should do during tours, during post-pandemic time. Because here, the guides are mostly the mirror of the all touristic elements, the companies, transfer companies, the sightseeing places, and all these elements are gathering in the guide performance. So mostly guides are controlling is the all touristic elements are applying the Sahman standards. It's about buses, it's about hotels, it's about sightseeing places, and the other element that they're in contact. And then you go to, in Azerbaijan, the firstly, guides should know, as you mentioned before, my colleagues mentioned before, you should know the current health standards that's applying by your country. It's now, in Azerbaijan, is Tabib. Tabib is a agency which is controlling the Sahman health standards in the country. And as a guide, firstly, you should meet with these regulations. And after this, you are going totally dedicated part to the guides. It's about, you see from the screen, we have the PDF file that's inserted to this program that the guide get acquainted with these sanitary and hygiene guide standards. And after this, there's a quiz. Quiz, it's not just checking your knowledge, it's just to repeat what you have done so far. There are 10 questions and you should perform 100%. If you fail, you can retake quiz. There is no limit. For many times, you can retake the quiz until you get 100%. And afterwards, we ask the guides a commitment letter, because the guide should promise or should take obligation that after getting Sahman certificate, they are going to apply the standards in their tours. That's why you download the commitment letter, you sign, you put your name and send it to the administrator. We keep it in our database, and during the practice time, it will be the main controlling tool by our sides. And the last step is about monitoring, you should fulfill the monitoring file. It looks like this. It's mostly about your personal hygiene, the care to the tourist hygiene and sanitation norms, and it's about what you have to carry with yourself in order to prevent in order to show the first aid emergency. It's about the thermometer when you detect the high fever. It's about the mask. It's about the disinfection materials. You should keep it in a little travel kit format in your bag. So that's why you fulfill this monitoring file, and final step sent to us. And finally, the Sahman certificate, it looks like this. You can see my Sahman certificate, Sakina Askerova, and you can carry it during the tour. It's like a badge, and to show the tourism volunteers, because we don't have tourism police right now. We have tourism volunteers who are checking the Sahman standards in the regions and in the center. It's about hotels, guides, and transfer companies, as I said. And in order to give more, awareness to the guides and to this community, we were doing online webinars in order to explain the technical and content questions that is interested for guides. And dear ladies and gentlemen, I think that on your mind there is such question, okay, we have done program, okay, you are doing the standards, but where do you apply this? Because when I firstly made this presentation for WFTJ, in that time I said that, sorry, it's not on practice right now because the international borders are closed and there was lockdown in some biggest cities of the country. But fortunately that a week ago, all the roads internally in the country are opened, and the guides, the Hotel Association, the Tourist Guide Association, in collaboration with Tourism Board, has launched Adventure is Near. In Azerbaijani, it sounds like Macera yakındadır. What does it mean? That we invite the local people to discover their own country, and going to this website, it's in Azerbaijani, as I said, it's for domestic people, as the international borders are closed. You go to macerayakındadır.az official website, and you can make your own itineraries along the country, and it's very detailed, and it's going to give you all the types of tours that you want to see. And apart the Sahman, as I said, that face-to-face guiding, we are doing e-learning platform that we are giving online guiding sessions for the international tour operators and the people who really wants to learn about Azerbaijan, who wants to become a virtual travel expert in Azerbaijan. For example, I have put here two gastronomy master classes done by me, and when you go to this site, you can enroll for free, and you can see many webinars and online guiding tours by our national guides. By this, we try to support the guides financially because they don't interrupt working and they get some payment by the government instead of doing such things on this platform. We help them to keep their skills and abilities until all the pandemic period overs, because we have to care about their skills and abilities. And third, we don't leave the people who really loves this region and wants to come. We keep them on the wave, and it's a nice tool in order to provide the sustainability of guiding. And very good that it's only for free. And in the end, I just want to thanks to all of you as a Sakina Askerova from Azerbaijan Tourism Board and Tourist Guides Association. And here I put the necessary links that would be interesting for you that to visit, to surf, and to get more information. 90% of information are in English available. You can get very, very in the comprehensive information, except, as I said, the Sahman training program, because here we target the only Azerbaijani-speaking, guides, because here if you want to be a national guide, you should speak the government language. So that's why the other informations you can find in this site, and I will write it in the chat. If you want, you can take it in from here. Thank you very much. It was very nice to be with you, and hope that we will be able to share exchange our experiences during post-pandemic time. Thank you.
Thank you, wonderful, Sakina. Actually, it only proves that digital is now. So, I mean, even this getting the certification on being or on having this safe pass, or basically the proof or evidence that for the tourists to build trust and confidence to the stakeholders like hotels, like us tourist guides. It's really wonderful practice and case study from Azerbaijan, and we have learned so much, and we hope also that you can share more of the best practices, case studies in our next future seminars. Thank you, Sakina.
Thank you.
And of course, you're welcome. Yes, with that, thank you for the past two presenters for today. And then we're moving to our next presenter, who is also my colleague in the training committee, as well as part of the WFTGA as an international trainer. A very good resource person, speaker, and trainer, and who will be delivering and sharing the case study in Iran. So let's all welcome everyone, Madi Jahangir.
Okay, hello everyone. I'm now sharing my screen with you. First of all, I say good morning and good evening based on the place and the location you are. And I am going to introduce the activities that was done during the pandemic in Iran National Museum as a case study. This is something that I collaborated with the Iran National Museum, and they really I collaborated with Iran National Museum, and this is something that is very particular in Iran, because we have kind of activities that the government have done already. But for the tourism part, we started with a smaller case. It was not a big activity for all the sectors, but they started from museums and the places that they had most visitors. And this is the case for National Museum. After this case, after this pilot project, many other places, they also started to have the their protocols and their activities regarding the pandemic. First, I explain a little bit about the Iran National Museum and why it was the pilot project and why it is very important to Iranian tourism. Iran's National Museum is not only the most important and the largest museum in Iran, archaeological museum in Iran, but it is also one of the most precious museums in the world. It is a UNESCO museum. It is registered under UNESCO as a UNESCO museum, and that's why it is very important, every activity that starts from here, because it is considered kind of modern museum to all around Iran. And as you see, this museum has two sections. One section, as you see, the building is related to pre-Islamic period, which starts around it keeps 1 million years old objects until the 7th century, exactly the time that Islam arrived in Iran. And then the other section, the other building is post-Islamic building, which keeps the objects from 7th century to 18th century. After the pandemic happened, and after the coronavirus actually arrived in Iran, the museum was closed for a few months, but the employees were present inside the museum, but the door were closed for for the visitors. But after few months, about I think in May, they started to write down some protocols because they realized that the pandemic is not going away, so they need to do something. They started to write down the protocols to be able to open this museum as well. Right now, the pre-Islamic part, which is the most important part, I would say, is open to the public, but it has 3 floors. Only the first floor is open to the public, and they did some changes to some adjustment to make it kind of accessible and safe for visitors. And there are some points that is relative to guiding, because this museum doesn't have guides, like there is no guide in this museum, so you need to hire a guide if you want to visit this place. And that's why they try to inform guides about the protocols and about the adjustments. So if they bring groups, they will consider these regulations, and they prepare their groups in advance, their tours in advance. So first of all, they divided the visiting time into sessions. Normally the museum is open from 9 to 5, and during the summertime, because the plan started in summertime, the visiting time is from 9 to 6. They divided into 9 sessions, 9 to 10, 10 to 11, 11 to 12, and so on. And as you see, there is 5-minute break in between, because they wanted to clean up, to kind of disinfect the area. So that's why they gave a break, 5-minute break between the sessions. If someone, a visitor, like individual visitor or a tour, they want to visit this museum, they have to follow these rules, their sessions. So if they come there, for each session, the limit for visitors is 20 people all over. It could be like 180 people they can visit this museum. And for example, from 9 to 10, if you go there and you want to buy the ticket, and the 9 to 10 is full, you need to wait until 10 to 11 session. So it's this way. So the number shouldn't exceed 20 people for each session. And if this is for individual visitors, and if there are some tours, they need to book in advance, and the number of people in each tour should be only 6 people. So this is another adjustment they did. Everyone should wear a mask. This is like a regulation, and I personally witnessed that they didn't allow people without mask to enter. So this is another thing. And for tours, and children under 6 years old, they are not permitted to enter the museum for health risk, because they are more vulnerable to the illness. So they are not allowed to enter if they are under 6 years old. There is a picture here on the right-hand side. You see, in case to avoid like physical connection, they also put barcode. There is application in the barcode, and you can scan the barcode and you can pay for the ticket instead of giving the credit card. They don't accept notes anymore, but they accept actually credit card. But this is also another way, by scanning the code, to pay. This is the new thing. It was not before. And the thing is that for tours, because they have to keep the physical distance, it is very convenient to use the audio system. So if they have whisper system, they can easily like talk. The guide can talk, and the others can hear at the back, and they don't need to be very close to each other. At the entrance, they check body temperature. You need to give all your belongings to the there is like a safe box. You need to give all your belongings to the safe box. There is alcohol spray at the beginning, and there you cannot carry alcohol spray inside the museum because it might damage the site, the objects in the museum. But you need to spray at the beginning. There is like tissue and also gloves in case you want to wear gloves. There is no brochure available, but there are like some codes on each objects that you can scan if you want, and you can read down the explanation about the objects. So there are like barcodes as well on each object. As we go forward, I will show you. And wearing the mask, as I told you, is one of the masks. And they put some rules in the museum, so you shouldn't go outside this route. There is a way to enter and there is a way to exit. So when you enter, because the museum is kind of round, so when you go, you enter from one side, you turn around, and then you exit from the other side. And this is very good because it reduces the interaction between the people. So if you go here, you don't interact with people a lot. They put some strings, some lines, these yellow lines, as you see on the left-hand side picture. There are two lines, yellow line. You need to follow inside and go inside these lines. And you shouldn't go farther, like you shouldn't get close very much to the cases. Normally, it was like the cases were horizontal, but now they are vertical. So they changed the position of the cases as well. So you can see the object and you don't need to go like you turn and go in front of the object, in front of the cases, as you see. There are some cases like this dog on the right-hand side. There is no way to put them in the line, and they are important objects. So they put a red line around it. So you shouldn't go very close to this. You should stay behind the red line, as you see. And they put some footprint spots. And if the visitor wants to visit, this is the place they should stand. And there are other footprints just around it, like on the right and on the left, that if there are groups or there are individual visitors, they have to keep this distance from each other. There is this, again, you see the string. So on the other side of the string, we have the guards of the museum. They all wear masks. Now this guy is playing with the mobile phone, but normally they are like sitting and watching around. And I saw that when they notice that someone is has removed the mask, they notify them and they warn them that they should wear it, otherwise they should go out. Again, we have the footprints as well, as you see, and you see that he's behind the thread, the string. And this is the most famous part of the museum for guides, because we have many Asian objects in the museum, but this map is very particular for tourist guides in Iran, because we normally start from here explaining about the Iranian civilization and the Iranian plateau and all the civilizations that were here. There is a stick, as you see behind, that we used to keep this stick and we used to show on the map everything, but now the stick is behind the line and we cannot touch it anymore, because maybe it was one of the reasons that the pandemic would go farther, spread farther as well. So these are the things that they did in the museum. As you see, there are like footprints and the people have to stand next to each other like this. So this is how, this is the way that they performed in the museum. They are now trying to change the upper floor. They are trying to change in the same way. As we all know, we don't know when the pandemic will go away. So they are trying to find ways to actually start the tourism again in Iran. And we already started with the local tours, with the internal tours, and hopefully we start again the inbound tourism as well. I hope that it was informative for you. If you have any question, you can just drop the questions in the chat box, and I respond as much as I know in the panel. Thank you for listening.
Thank you, dear Maddie, and a good case study from the Iran National Museum that now the protocol is taking in place specifically to the places that we are working to, that we are working with. And I am now seeing people and from our dear attendees about their questions and some clarifications. Again, we have the Q&A chat feature in our Zoom meeting room. So you can chat in your questions and we will be able to accommodate those after my presentation. So thank you very much, Maddie, for this excellent presentation about how you shifted, how the Iran National Museum have shifted to be agile, to be in adapt to what the new normal or what the pandemic is actually calling us. So thank you. And with it, actually, is for me to now, take the space on how will I be updating you on the protocol of the WFTJ. Again, this is the drafted and the finalized protocol, through a technical working group that I will be presenting to all of you how WFTGA is really making its best effort to cover the health and safety protocol of both the tourist guides and as well as the guests or our tourists in the world. So that's why I am taking a little of your time for the moment, and with this, I am to share to you my presentation. So I hope that you are still with us and you are still being inspired with our past three presenters. And now it's for me to actually let you feel that WFTGA is working on and have worked on for the past few months together with people and together with member associations from different countries. No? So it's good to have coffee while learning, but nonetheless, having this is actually recharging us on how WFTGA could work on protecting also the health of the tourist guide sector, and on the other spectrum is for the tourists alike. So my name is Manu, and this will be my presentation for today. So what is the goal? When the pandemic strikes us, basically we have looked upon on how the tourist guiding sector, the WFTJ specifically, have looked on what ways can we be guided upon with how we will be able to protect also the welfare, because now we're talking about health and we're talking about risks. So we all understand that our job takes lots of risks, but now with emphasis on us contracting the COVID-19 or the disease itself and us transmitting the disease unknowingly. So that's why encouraging safety is the priority with emphasis on health. And of course, being transparent by letting you understand what's the process is all about, what will be the living guidelines be all about. And of course, this will in turn become our social responsibility for inclusivity. So I understand that each country has, of course, some are being governed through their own ministries or departments, as well as some are actually private. So with this, it's part of the WFTGA to share to you a little of what we have come up with, how we will be able to protect the welfare of the tourist guides and again the tourists. So by implementing this international health and safety protocols, again, just a disclaimer, this will serve only, or this will serve as not mandatory that you need to implement in your specific countries. Again, we respect, the WFTJ respects the law in certain countries, but nonetheless, with this safety protocol and international health guidelines, you will somehow have an idea on how will you run and move forward towards getting to be protected. All right. So with the approaches that the WFTGA have used use is, of course, through collaborative approach. So what is a collaborative approach? It is done through the technical working group. So the WFTGA, through the executive board, have invited member associations for them to share their country's health protocol so that it will become a guideline, or it will become a baseline of how we will be starting up to draft the proposed health and safety protocol guidelines. So we are very grateful for the member associations from the different countries that we have received starting from April to May. And yes, these were all compiled, these were all studied, and these were all being felt by the WFTGA Technical Working Group, so that after all, we will be able, or we were able to come up with a finalized health and safety protocol guideline. Of course, this will not be holistic if we will not be including the private sectors. And the private sectors are actually the private sectors are this one are the ones we are partnering with. So that's why we need to really also get their sides, what's their principles about it. And nonetheless, this is a clear manifestation that WFTGA, again, during this time of pandemic, is here with all of us, tourist guides in the whole world, to serve as an inspiration for us to be inspired of this living guideline. So again, this is not really for you to follow, but nonetheless is for you to be guided upon on how you'll be starting your protocols in your respective countries. Just an acknowledgement, the technical working group of the WFTGA that we received and that have worked since May of 2020 was, of course, through the representation of our president, Ms. Alushka Ricci, from South Africa. And then we have like 4 member associations who have participated also to become part of this guidelines or living guidelines. So we would like to acknowledge, the Tourist Guides Association from Georgia, from United States of America, from Portugal, also from Philippines, and also we have some from Azerbaijan, we have from France, we have different countries who have submitted their health guideline protocol in their respective countries. So how does it work? What does the protocol cover? Basically, the protocol have been drafted in the beginning and later on has been finalized to cover museums, just like what we have had in our presentation, different attractions and sites to visit. And also, of course, we don't need to forget our coaches. So coaches meaning the transportation, the car rental companies, even the driver guides that we are working with. Also, part of this protocol covers the walking tour. Guiding on board, and of course, guiding on walking tours. So with this, you can observe that the WFTGA have looked upon on what really the tourist guides are doing, starting from the moment they start their work up to the moment we end our work as a tourist guides, including some of the tours like the specialized tasting tours, food tours, even cruise ship guiding, inclusive also of adventure and nature. So this protocol is already at hand, is already prepared, but nonetheless, we needed to update you on how will this be available or readily be available. So this is actually a very quick presentation because this is only an update and what has been the timeline so far. So for the last slide, for the moment, this has been the update on how we will be able to share to you and distribute to members this health and safety protocols and guidelines. So last May of 2020, the group met through virtual session. So we have had series, meetings and exchanges of emails and exchanges of points of views and give some and few of the documents from the different respective countries. Then we were able to invite people to, of course, do it voluntarily. So that's why we actually are very grateful for the effort that they have exerted to WFTGA. And after the May, the WFTGA health and safety protocol already received the stamp with the seal for safer tourism. So just like the second presenter from Azerbaijan through Sakina about the certification, we wanted that this guiding document be more credible when we endorse this to our dear members. So receiving stamps, receiving certifications are really somehow, our way of letting people understand that it passed through the minimum required standards, that it passed through also through different people or organization, because after all, it was then circulated only to the technical working group. So with the approval of the stamp, as we have received it already, then we already have the seal for safer tourism logo or stamp. And yet, through Alushka Ricci, through our dear president, we also applied for UNWTO and the WTTC stamps. So this is actually where our documents, the health and safety protocol document, is all about. So these are still on process of them, UNWTO and WTTC, understanding and waiting for the whole process to be finalized. And once again, we all have this, the WFTGA all have this stamps for you people, for you, our dear members, to build confidence, for you to also trust this document. Nonetheless, this is for the welfare of the tourist guides around the world. Then this will be readily available for the distribution to our members by the WFTGA. So with that, I am, of course, personally are grateful because I have been part of the legacy of the WFTGA. And becoming part of this legacy is to prove that WFTGA wants that everyone be protected. We don't want anyone to be left out. So with this guiding principle, we are somehow, of course, just awaiting for all of the procedure to come up into finalization. And once it's readily available, of course, the WFTGA will be very happy to inform, to update, and to also send and distribute this through different communication channels. So after all, the WFTGA aims to rebuild trust and relationships with visitors and guests to our respective destinations. This pandemic has caused us to really to have mistrust issues, to have basically choose not to go out of our homes for the past few months. And by building trust and confidence, that's the next step. And that's what really is good about the past three presenters for today, of how safe, of how it's being ensured as a stamp, and how the rules are taking place into the museums are all about for our respective destinations. So that's how quick my presentation is. And if you have any questions so far relative to the past three presenters and to my presentation also, please, again, we are grateful to appreciate and acknowledge your questions. So thank you very much for listening.
Thank you very much, Manu, and thank you very much, Jean from Singapore. Thank you very much, Sakina from Azerbaijan, and Madi also from our training committee, actually, for your experiences in Iran. So I really hope that has been input.
Oh,
and
I think we lost
confidence
Viola.
and working together, trying to highlight at the moment. Yeah, Sebastian, I've seen you have put a, sorry, can you hear me okay?
Yes,
Yeah.
now we can hear you, please.
Sorry, I just got a message, my internet connection is unstable. Yeah, thank you also for your question. I think some of them could be, or one of them at least, partly can be answered by a poll Sebastian has prepared. I think it might be the right time to launch our poll. Do you want me to do it, Sebastian? Here it is. So wonderful. So just to, some of you really ask what the situation is like in the respective countries and how you are allowed to guide compared to previous situations. So I think the poll is live now. Yes, and votes are coming in just to give us a flavor of what the situation is like in the rest of the world. We've heard from our 3 countries and Manu from the WFEJ perspective. So now just to give us a flavor from our participants. Yeah, whilst you're voting, I can see we've got 43 participants from all over the world. So I just read a couple of Bahrain, Mongolia. Yeah, welcome Mongolia. I think you're not officially part of our WFEJ family, but it would be lovely to welcome you. Although we do have WFEJ trainers in Mongolia. Yeah, Kyrgyzstan, so Silk Road areas. Europe, so it's really lovely to have so many voices of tourism now voting.
So here are the results.
Thank you, Sebastian. So let's have so everybody can see them. Just a quick look through. Full-time income only, yeah, almost 40%, more than 50%. Again, a large percentage. So really, as we thought, most of us are professional guides, almost full-time guides. And it's so important to have an income in a time where we can't do our conventional guiding. So from that point of view, I was really impressed by Jean, for instance, using the customer service skills to then becoming the ambassadors. We are ambassadors anyway for our destination, so we are becoming more now ambassadors for health and safety too. Right, then the second question, let's have a look. Is it already allowed to guide in your area? Yeah, there it is. And the largest category, if I might say so, is no, it is forbidden. So half of us, it's forbidden. 36% yes, with rigorous limitations, small groups, safety, and so on. So yeah, that is really good to see how how the rest of the world is shaped up in terms of tourism at the moment. Thank you, Sebastian. I think that gives us additional flavor. Let's have a look for the last 20 minutes or so in our questions and give the answers to our questions. Should we just? And I see 2 questions have been submitted. And one is really about the crowd sizes. So I said the second question more or less already went into the type of guiding which is allowed at the moment. So there's one question saying, I'm interested to know what the crowd sizes are for tour groups in your countries and how that has changed over the course of the pandemic. Could I ask maybe take a turn through our panelists and just give a rough flavor of the situation? And Madi, could we maybe start with you?
Yes, I have had collected some statistics because in last session also they asked the question, so I wanted to do a comparison so you will see how much my country was affected with the pandemic. In 2018, we had 22 million visits of the museums in Iran, all over Iran. It was not only the inbound, like it was not only the foreigners, it was also the local visitors, the Iranians. So it was 20 million in 2018. The statistics of this year didn't come out, but from what I witnessed in the museum, there was nobody actually. It was like maybe 3, 4. In some days they had 20. It was not the same as before, because before for Iran National Museum, especially in high seasons like fall and spring, there was a queue to enter. It was not the same now. And for a museum like Iran National Museum that had record of 42,000 visitors in one day only, it is like it's a disaster actually. We had 7 million visitors in the past year, inbound tourism. It is it's related to medical tourism, cultural tourism, adventurous tourism, and also business tourism. Business is not a type of tourism, I would say, but anyway, the business visitors, I could say that altogether it was 7 million last year. And we had an increase last year, 40% increase in comparison with the previous year. I mean, in 2019, we had 40% of increase. So it was 7 million. But then in 2020, in the first 3 months, we had only 72 visitors from foreign countries. So it's so much less. Now they started to open up because they didn't issue visa for foreigners, only on very, very certain base, like very urgent situations. And now they started since June, they started to issue visa for neighboring countries for the purpose of medical tourism, because it is more, it is easier to control when it is medical tourism. They do a lot of checking, like medical checking. They open like that, and then little by little, they are talking to open to all in next February or January. Which will be like most for Chinese New Year, because we have many visitors from China. So they will start for Chinese New Year in January 2021, hopefully. So this is the statistics that I collected. And I hope things will be better in the future.
Wow, many thanks, Madi. So it's really gone from one extreme of almost over-tourism, as we say, to the very, very sparse visitor numbers or low visitor numbers. I must say in Scotland, where I'm a tourist guide, we have almost no international visitors. And Jean and Sakina and others have already highlighted the importance of domestic tourism. So that is really an area that is becoming more and more important for us. And there we actually had overcrowding in some places, beauty spots and nature, where the police had to come and then also regulate access. So it's again, yeah, a double-edged sword if you want, but it just highlights that access needs to be managed. I don't know if our other panelists have additional information on crowd sizes, as the question stated in their countries. Jean, yeah, you're muted, Jean.
Right, yeah.
Wonderful.
Okay, for Singapore, since the end of July, we have guidelines for tourists, for guides who want to do tours. So we don't have foreign visitors at the moment, but we encourage to create tours for local groups. And the irony is the domestic residents, the local residents don't want to be known as tourists. So they are looking for product quite different than what we have been doing. So we really have to come up with new tours, which is tough, because we have to look into the minds of our friends and relatives who think that they live in Singapore, there's no need to join a tour. So having said that, if we do get a tour going, we have to keep to a group size of 10 if it's a walking tour. And for a group of 10, we have to divide the group into 2, 5 and 5, and they mustn't be intermingling. So that's questionable how we prevent people from intermingling when we stop. And then when we start walking, it's like 1 meter apart. So some of the guides are very brave. They've started doing these tours, but very few, not enough to make a living. Yeah.
Thank you very much, Jean. So in terms of the crowd sizes, I mean, that's actually one side of the story. And thank you for highlighting, of course, the local regulation we all have to follow in terms of physical distancing, in terms of group sizes. Here again in Scotland, where I'm working as a guide, it's also important how many households are in the group. And yesterday, our regulations were actually tightened again. It was slightly more relaxed. And yesterday we are back to 6 people can meet and 2 households. And the guide is actually 1 household. So it's more or less back to private guiding.
Mm-hmm.
let me add to what Manu said, and that, again, I think it's quite interesting that the WFDJ protocols, as Manu said, they are not mandatory, but because we all have our local protocols, we have to follow, so that will affect crowd sizes, but they will be, so we hope, very useful in the absence of any local protocols. And they're also, like many of our standards, if you want, minimum requirements. So from that point of view, it's additional and a guidance. We hope they will fill gaps. So in terms of crowd sizes, yes, we are reliant on the visitors that are coming, but then we need to control the numbers of visitors we are working with. And that will depend firstly on our local regulations. And if our local regulations don't go far enough, then we have the WFDJ protocol to fall back on. Is that a fair assessment, Manu?
Yeah, right, Viola. That's basically, I mean, of talking about standards, and setting standards is basically, I mean, looking on the bigger picture of the welfare of the tourist guides, and again, on the visitors' side as well.
Great. Thank you very much, Manu. Looking at other questions, one very quick one for Madi again is about the guides wearing masks in the museum as well. You covered the visitors. Could you maybe answer on what kind of personal protective equipment the guides are using?
Yeah, the guys are wearing the mask. It will kind of affects the eye. It doesn't affect the eye contact, but it affects the smiley face that guys has to have. But this is for protection. And the other thing is that for guiding, the equipment are now the whisper system, the audio system that they have to use. It's not obligatory in the museum, but they are suggested to do that because it's more effective. And the group can keep distance from each other. And the other thing is that the tours cannot be big. So if, as Jean mentioned, if the tour is 12, for example, they have to break into two 6, and then it will kind of increases the cost of the tour, but this is how the regulation is for holding and for keeping the tours. So it's only 6 people in each section that they enter for each tour, and then they have to all wear the masks. The masks, yeah.
Yeah, including the tourist guide.
Including the tourist guides, yes.
Thank you very much, Madi. And there's also one question for Sakina, if I may ask it, and it's about the certification you were talking about. Is it free? So the question actually says, this certification for future guides in Azerbaijan, is it free? As far as I understand, yes, it is free, but it is not for future guides. This is actually existing guides that are undertaking this additional certification. Is that correct, Sakina?
If it's about the Sahman certification, because there are different level of certification right now in Azerbaijan, the Sahman certification is free for everyone, and the main concept is not to limitate the people, the guides' creativity and guides' actions inside the country. So that's why we made it very accessible and sustainable. But about the certification, about the regional guides, I mean the area specified guides, WFDJ certified guides. So these ones, some of them, the 70% are the guides are getting scholarships from the tourism board, and they get, for example, we are, as you know, dear Viola, we are collaborating with training division for HOT level, and we are planning TOT as well. All these international trainings or UNWTO, for example, trainings, they are for free, but we make a competition and we give scholarship to the guides in order to support their personal development. It's not because of the pandemic period. We have started it 2 years ago, but about the regional as well, because we are going to the remote areas. all the country, and we are supporting the community in order to support them to get employability rate. We give them scholarship again, and they come to the regional tourist guides training, and they are able to guide in their community and to to speak in English or in some selected foreign language, and we are giving them the technical skills and abilities, of course standing on the WFTJ standards. But about the area specified guide certification, which is giving you the touristic badge for 5 years. For this year, we are planning to give scholarships again because of the pandemic, but the near 2 years, 2-3 years, when the guides will earn and stand on their feet again, it will be paid.
Great, thank you very much, Sakina.
You're welcome.
And again, you highlighted that is actually in the absence of any work, we can still continue with our professional development. And it's so heartwarming to see that the Azerbaijan Tourism Board and in other countries as well, associations and organizations are helping financially with that too. I mean, I must say here for our tourist guides, all our what we call CPD, continuous professional development, is free. We are offering it for free as well in those difficult times to our colleagues.
Yes, and to be honest, we have divided when the pandemic started in April. For guides and the tourism people, we have divided our support into 2 places. One, it was CDP, and the second one, it was special help packages, which is already we have implemented to delegate it among the 300 guides, and especially who have kids who don't have another alternative to earn, because in this period, the state really cared that these talented people not to leave their profession, because otherwise they're becoming into taxi drivers or some, I mean, we respect all professions. It's not about the profession. It's the problem is that you are working on some group of people, and one day because of the money, they leave their profession. So that's why we have divided it. One, it is CDP right now, some online trainings, or for example, tomorrow, after 2 days, I'm going to the very north of Azerbaijan, to we have minority communities there, to give them this 6 people groups trainings, face-to-face trainings, of course adopting Sahman concepts. And the second one is special health packages, which is already 2 weeks we started to implement the daily support, money support from the government. So that's why we hope that we will be able to continue it till that time when the tourism recovers.
Wonderful. Yeah. Bravo, Azerbaijan. I mean, really a lot of help. And I think it's also due to you, Sakina, being a qualified tourist guide and a tourist guide trainer, and also working for the Azerbaijan Tourism Board. So the role of guides has been, the profile has really been raised. And that is actually another opportunity, as we've seen in the other countries as well. So guides advising museums on how to conduct safer tours, and how to actually, as Jean highlighted, implement health and safety. I'm afraid, looking at the clock, our time is actually up. So 1.5 hours, and the time went so fast. There are more questions coming in. Some about virtual tours, helpful or harmful for tourist guides. Really interesting one. We probably could talk about that one for hours to come. But I think really it's about seizing the opportunities. I mean, that is, we have to be adaptive. We have to be flexible. And that's what Darwin said in the evolution theory as well. It's not the strongest that will survive. It's the one that can adapt to the new circumstances. And that's what we are hoping as WFTJ, maybe to help in a little way by listening to each other, by learning to each other. And so let me thank again all our panelists. So Jean from Singapore, Madi from Iran, Sakina from Azerbaijan. Sakina, there are many more questions actually for you, and also people interested in having what we call it exchange programs, experience exchange programs with you. So colleagues, you see the name on the screen, you find Sakina in the internet. If you can't find her, get in touch with WFTJ and we put you in touch with our colleagues.
It's a great pleasure, yes.
And also thank you, Manu, for all your work you have done, I mean, for the Expo, for the working group, and for presenting today, for updating. And let me mention again our colleagues from Georgia, from New York, from Portugal, from the Philippines, from Azerbaijan again, who participated and who came into the working group. It is, if you wonder how it came about, it's actually our door in WFDJ is always open. So you can always come with ideas and with contributions. That's exactly what our colleagues I just mentioned did. So thank you to them. And lastly, thank you to Sebastian and his team of Guide Training for hosting us. Thanks for helping me earlier with my technical issues. And please, everybody, thanks to you for coming, whatever time it is in your area, for coming and joining us today. And please do come back. So as I already mentioned, the next really big exchange of experiences will be from the 28th of September, again led by our president, Alushka Ritchie. And we have called it the Association's Journey. So this is where tourist guide associations come together over 3 days and they really explain their journey through the pandemic and what they have learned. So today, if you want, was a little taster and a starting point. And thank you to everybody, and everybody stay safe and keep the tourist guiding going. And you know where to find us. WFDJ's door is always open to you. Goodbye and thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.